Welcome to a new edition of the Market Reporters, Friday the 7th of August, with my colleague Taco.
Welcome.
And myself, Martin. Okay, so what we always do is we go through the week, then we discuss some individual stocks, some companies, we discuss the market. I'm going to kick off with going through the week. Monday we had HSBC that showed a drop of their earnings, really bad figures if you compare them to last year. Heineken also not good. Of course, nobody went to the bar, so they had 52% less profit. Microsoft announced that they want to take over TikTok. That was already announced last week, but it was actually the whole week part of the news. They were constantly talking about TikTok, US and China tensions that are rising, etc. On Tuesday, markets went higher despite the oil price going down and BP notifying the shareholders that they will cut their dividend. On Wednesday, gold for the first time went through the $2,000 benchmark, and the German huge bank, Commerzbank, notified a loss due to the fact that Wirecard made a mess out of that. That's what we can say now. They made a mess out of it. And of course, also important for the people that follow Beyond Meat, they couldn't convince the market. They basically lost 60% of, they had 60% less profit than last year. And yeah, that was of course also due to the fact that restaurants were closed and they couldn't sell as much of their fake meat as they would like. On Thursday we had Disney, positive figures. Disney Plus did really well. And also what we of course see the last couple of months is the hope on a vaccine. No? So we had Moderna, that was last week, really positive. This week it was the turn of Novavax that announced a stage 1 trial on 30,000 people in India, and the shares went up 10% due to that fact. Last night, Thursday, Donald Trump announced that he's going to prohibit US companies to use the Chinese application WeChat. WeChat is owned by Tencent, so Tencent shares went down 10% yesterday, and also Alibaba and JD.com left about 5 to 7%. So it was a lot of tension yesterday in the Chinese market, and yeah, there's a lot of fear what might be the retaliation of the Chinese on US companies. And then specifically, I found two companies that are pretty active, US companies that are pretty active in China, which is Electronic Arts and Activision Blizzard, both companies focusing on gaming. You dove into Ahold.
Yes, we had 2 weeks ago Unilever, of course. Last week Nestlé. Wednesday it was Ahold Delhaize presenting their figures. Dutch-based company with Belgium Delhaize included, but also active in the US. They reported 19.1 billion net sales. That's up 17%. Wow. 20% in the US, 10% in Europe. You know more or less where they are bigger in the US regarding to the sales?
I would say they are bigger in the US.
You are correct. But more or less 60-40%. Okay. So it's not only for our Dutch clients the Albert Heijn. It's far more. And their earnings per share 65 cents, so increasing 88%.
So for our English viewers that don't know Albert Heijn or don't know Ahold, Ahold is basically, it's a company like Mercadona, Dia, Tesco, Walmart, sort of like, huh?
Yeah, especially in the Netherlands, so they're very big in the Netherlands. They also have bol.com, which is a little bit like Amazon in the Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg. And well, the figures were received well, 6% up that day, Wednesday, and the share actually was already back to the level before Corona, and now 10% higher. So it's one again an example of a company that actually
benefited from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although of course they experience also the negative consequences.
Of course.
So now 10% higher than before Corona crisis.
Great. Yeah, I had a client that sent me an email that said, why is it actually that Microsoft is so eager to get TikTok? So I had a look at that, and what we could summarize is that the most important thing is the fact that they have 50 million users on a daily basis. So that's why it's so interesting for Microsoft. If you look at the value of TikTok, there's an estimation between 15 and 30 billion. So it's a really wide range. It's not really clear what the exact value is. So we would say, if we take the average, so let's say it's worth 20, 25 million. Billion, apologize. Are there any other companies interested? Yes, Apple and Disney also showed some interest. And if we look at Microsoft as a company itself, you pay 33 times the profit, and they pay out 1% of their profits, which is 1% dividend, and that's a payout rate of 33%. Taco, you looked at this week actually, because we started off with the week, but you looked at what the week actually happened, no?
Yes, because last week we were sitting here, markets were a little bit down, as you might remember. The S&P 500 compared to last Friday, now 3,330, so that's 80 points more, 2.5%. And well, actually the European markets are more or less the same. The Dutch market, for people interested, like 2% higher. But important also, the euro dollar is now flat, but last month 6% weaker. So I mean, people having their investments in dollars, but actually having their expenses in pounds or in euros. Yeah, so that's quite a big movement. And compared to March and April, actually it's like 10%. So like I said, people with investments, they of course also benefit from the higher US market, higher gold price. But if you later have to change it back to convert it to euros, then you will see the consequences. And especially if you only hold your dollars in a currency account without investing, because, for example, you sold some shares, then it's actually the value in euros now 6% or 10% less.
I can imagine those people selling their shares in March and April because they didn't trust the market and they kept the dollars, you know, at least they have some dollars. I mean, they've lost this year 10-15% plus 10% if they live here in Spain or
and as long as it's planned to hold your plan to hold them, okay. But people, if it was a little bit laziness, then it's then expensive lesson.
Expensive lesson, Yeah, no, absolutely. To finish off with, I had an email this morning of a client that asked me about Uber. They presented their figures yesterday, and basically the figures of Uber were not that good. Obviously, people were not taking a lot of taxis; they were all staying at home. The good thing about Uber is that they also have Uber Eats, and that basically saved their quarter. So the taxi service had 600 million. Turnover, but Uber Eats had 1.2 billion turnover, so which is pretty, you know, nearly double. It's 103% more than last year. And there's a lot to do in that sector. Casper talked about it a few weeks ago. Grubhub was going to go together with, or is basically together with Just Eat Takeaway, a Dutch listed company. And Uber Eats is now also looking to take over Postmates. I took a little bit of a deep dive in the main players that have a listing on the market and what their market capitalization is, what their worth is now. So Grubhub has a worth of 7 billion, Uber 60 billion, but of course that's including the taxi service, so I couldn't find exactly which part was responsible for how much of that market cap. Takeaway, Just Eat Takeaway, has a value of 14 billion, and there's a German company, Deliveroo, which has a value of 19 billion, and then you have in America a smaller company, Blue Apron, which is growing really rapidly, and that has a value of only 121 million, so not billion, but million. And they're very specific because they bring ingredients to make your food yourself. So probably it will be either eaten by one of the other ones, or they will be that strong that they grow themselves. I think that was the wrap up of this week.
Yes.
We see each other hopefully next week again. Thank you for looking and watching, and I see you, and we see you.
Thank you very much.